What's up, guys? Welcome to Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes! Alright, I'm very excited about this one. So, this is the expansion to Sengoku Basara 2 on the HD collection. Again, the final game of the HD collection. So, we have 3 hero stories for our campaign this time around. 3 heroes which were not playable in the normal Basara 2 game, but are now playable here. So, we have these really nice anime cutscenes. I'm not particularly fond of this art style. Obviously, the production IG animation for the actual anime series is much better than this, but it is a nice new perspective. The CG in-game cutscene style animation is much better, but this is nice for what it is. It's kind of an homage to the occasional anime cutscenes we got in Basara 1, but it's a little bit better. So out of the 3 characters, this is going to be a shorter Let's Play because we're only doing 3 characters instead of 4 or 5. So the first one we're going to be doing is Kojuro Katakura, who is Masamune's right-hand man and, as his namesake would suggest, his right eye. So since Masamune is the one-eyed dragon, he has to have somebody to watch his back, right? And that's where Kojuro comes in. So he is also my favorite character in all of Basara, and the one that I cosplay as, for those of you that know. So, my favorite male character, I should say, at least. So, as you can see, I have quite a bit already unlocked for him, so I'm going to be restoring him to his default, so we can kind of go through the natural progression of the game and without everything being too overpowered. So, I'm going to leave... These are the 3 alternate outfits for him. As you can see, I'm going to go with the standard one for now. This is the one that I cosplay. And then the middle one and the third one will go to throughout. So, going back down to his standard sword... standard moveset. We're going to use these gradually over the course of his campaign. I really like these transitions here where it shows all the portraits of all the characters. Some of these portraits I feel like look good, and some of them don't. It's worth mentioning I don't know if I mentioned it in the Basara 2 Let's Play, but Ieyasu Tokugawa, or Takechio, is actually playable in Basara 2 in the Conquest mode, and he's also playable here in the Conquest mode for the expansion. But he doesn't have a hero story. And he obviously plays very different than he does in, he plays very different in this than he does in Basara 3. So, really quickly, I'm going to be changing the camera controls here because inverted sucks, as you guys know. And I'll have to remember to do this again with Basara 3 and 4 when we get to that. But yeah, even though I sort of disciplined myself to do this for a while, I'm trying to navigate the menus in Japanese, even though I can't read what I'm doing, although I've done this before, so... Gotta make sure I'm inverting the right one. One of those is up and down, the other one is left and right. I want to make sure I get the right one. Okay, we're in business. Alright, so Kojuro Katakura. So, he is one of my favorite characters because he's one of the most traditional samurai out of everyone in the cast. He actually wields a standard katana. 2 of them, in fact. One of them remains sheathed in its scabbard. I know there's a particular... I really should do the research on the particular names for every... piece of a katana, because everything on a katana down to each and every little piece has a name in Japanese, and it's very particular. I don't want to botch any of these terms. But yeah, he keeps one of the swords sheathed, and it has the other one for attacking. And I'm not sure if these swords do have unique properties. They're lightning elemental, obviously, and they have sort of a unique power behind them. So Masamune was able to use these. He was able to use one of Kojuro's swords in the anime to deliver the final blow on Toyotomi Hideyoshi. But we'll talk more about that as we go. So Kojuro's moves are very fluent and fast. He plays very similar to Masamune with his regular combos. The 2 alternate attacks we have for him right now are a lunge where he sort of juts himself forward like that. That's lightning elemental. It's pretty effective at closing some distance between us and our enemies. And then his other one is where he puts the sword into the ground and then slashes with the other one, which is one of my favorite, more stylish moves for Kojuro. I really like that. So, and then as you can see there, next to his portrait is the gauge that will fill up for it's our Fury gauge. Our Basara meter is already full, but the Fury gauge will fill up much more slowly, but we still have that in this game. It's essentially the exact same gameplay engine and controls as Basara 2, same graphics engine, everything. Reoccurring characters will play exactly the same. But we're not going to be playing as any of the reoccurring characters, only going to be playing as new ones. So our foe here is a brand new character we haven't seen yet, and that is Matsunaga Hisahide, who is known as the villain of the Warring States. And he, I'll talk about his actual historical significance probably in the next video. But he's one of my favorite Basara antagonists, and he has this sort of group of elite soldiers right here we're going to fight. These guys are pretty cheap bastards, and I don't care for them, but they have really cool armor designs. So they're going to do a little dance, and we're not going to have any of that. So Matsunaga Hisahide has taken some of our best guys, and he is holding them prisoner, and of course Masamune's motto is leave no man behind. So we're going to go in for them and make sure we get them back. So Kojuro is helping us with this, of course, to make sure we get back our best soldiers. So again, this is where sort of the guys that, we saw them a little bit in Basara 2, but this is where those guys that we see in the anime, the very unique looking ragtag group of soldiers that Masamune has always behind him, this is where those characters sort of come from. They're not exactly the same as they are in the anime, but this is kind of where the inspiration came from for those characters. And this exact plot point is done again in the anime, where again those soldiers were kidnapped by Matsunaga Hisahide, and it's Kojuro's task to go and free them. So that's sort of a reoccurring rivalry is between Kojuro and Matsunaga Hisahide, and I really do like it. I like Hisahide. He's one of my favorite antagonist type characters in the Basara series, just because of his design. It's a little less over the top than Nobunaga or Hideyoshi. But as far as the villain goes, he's not nearly on par with them because he doesn't really do anything significant over the course of the story. But I like how he's always there just kind of lingering in the shadows, where he can just pop out any time and do something, and you never know what he might be capable of. So I always sort of treated him as like the sleeper villain, where he could just come out at any time and all of a sudden just take over in a very meaningful way when everybody has their back turned to him, supposedly. So we can actually cut through these ice blocks here, which I'm sure is very realistic. Speaking of realism and speaking of Kojuro again, he's one of the more because he's a more traditional samurai, he's one of the more realistic characters in terms of design and fighting style. He's not nearly as over the top and provides some grounding in terms of combat when it comes to the games and the anime. He's much more grounded and realistic. But his quirk, his unique trait is that he likes to fight dirty. So you'll occasionally see him just put his swords down and just punch a dude or headbutt him. And it's pretty awesome. It's actually a move we'll unlock later on where he can do that. There's his Basara attack there. It's very fluent. You get to see the crescent moon shape of his strikes there with the way his katanas move and the lightning that comes from them. In terms of story, though, Kojuro's purpose really is to be a mediator for sort of somebody to help ground Masamune's logic and make sure that Masamune makes good decisions. Kojuro is a brilliant tactician, and he's really the reason why Masamune wins fights. He's older, more wise, and more tactical than Masamune, where Masamune is a fiery dragon with a hot head. So he's prone to irrationality and making bad decisions, and Kojuro helps him see things through. And it's a brilliant dichotomy between the two of them. I really love their dynamic, and as a result of this, the brilliant tactician Takanaka Hanbei in Season 2 of the anime makes sure to kidnap Kojuro, which results in Masamune. I've already talked about this in the Basara 2 Let's Play, but this causes Masamune to make some terrible decisions without Kojuro around to stabilize him. So, for instance, they stage an uprising in Masamune's territory, which causes him to split his army into 3 different places to try to quell this uprising. And then he just gets ruffle-stomped by Hideyoshi and his forces, so it didn't really end up well in his favor. But again, Kojuro, unfortunately, as a result of this, ends up sitting on his ass for the majority of Season 2, which sucks. He really didn't get a lot of good screen time. But when he does come back, oh boy, is it great. So we're fighting Matsunaga Hisahide here, as you can see. He's not terribly tough right now because they mean for him to get away right here. You deplete his health all the way, but you're going to have to fight him again later. He's fire elemental. He's very elegant with his sword swings. He has a more Chinese style, like a Dao sword almost. He doesn't have a katana, but his sword is still like fantasy in design. It's not based on an actual Dao, but I really do like the design of it. I like his outfit, how it's two-tone like that, and he has a very evil, maniacal villain mustache going on. He's got the sideburns of death, like Kojuro's scar there. It's pretty awesome. I guess this sword's a little bit longer than a Dao would be, so like I said, it's more fantasy in design. So again, you can see the soldiers in the background there that are being held captive. So Matsunaga Hisahide collects treasure, particularly legendary weapons. So he wants Masamune to forfeit his dragon claws in order to set the guys free, and Masamune does it. I mean, if you're Masamune, why wouldn't you? Because obviously you want to save your guys. Look at that huge katana that's sticking up through his coat there. It's sort of like an evil parallel to Kojuro almost. Cheap bastard. Well, that sucked. Looks like we're on a mission to get Masamune's dragon claws back and get our revenge on Matsunaga Hisahide.